Welcome back. We're moving from the highway of appeals to the emergency exit of civil procedure. Annulment of judgment under Rule 47.
The court's guiding principle here is the doctrine of immutability of judgments. Once a case is final, it's dead and buried. Rule 47 is the only way to resurrect it, but only if the judgment was never alive to begin with.
First, you cannot just jump to Rule 47.
Correct. The teaching in Gawiran versus CA and Ancheta versus Cambay is that Rule 47 is a remedy of last resort. You must show that ordinary remedies like a motion for a new trial, appeal, or a Rule 38 petition for relief were no longer available through no fault of your own.
But Ancheta gave us a very important distinction regarding the prior remedy bar.
Right. The ratio of Ancheta versus Cambay is this. If you previously filed a petition for relief and lost, you are barred from filing a Rule 47 petition based on extrinsic fraud. However, you are not barred from filing based on lack of jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is a higher category. You cannot waive into a void judgment.
Let's define the first ground. What is extrinsic fraud?
Spouses Manila versus Spouses Manzo and Gawiran versus CA teach us the day in court test.
Meaning,
it's fraud that prevents a party from fully presenting their case. The ratio, it must be committed by the prevailing party outside of the trial. The distinction based on Spouses Manila clarifies that intrinsic fraud, like perjury or forged deeds presented during trial, is not a ground for Rule 47. Why? Because you had the chance to point out the forgery during the trial. If you missed it, that's on you.
and Gawiran adds that if the fraud was actually just your own lawyer's negligence, Rule 47 won't save you. Negligence is not extrinsic fraud. The second ground is lack of jurisdiction. This is usually about the person.
Go versus Chavez and Benatiro versus Heirs of Cuyo are the authorities here.
Go versus Chavez teaches that strict compliance with the service of summons is vital. If the return of the summons is defective, the court never acquired jurisdiction. The judgment is a lawless thing.
Benatiro goes further, and if a lawyer represents you without your knowledge or authority, and you were never served summons, that judgment is void.
And Heirs of Boras versus Heirs of Boras reminds us that lack of jurisdiction refers to either the subject matter or the person. If the court didn't have the power to hear the case, the judgment never became final because it was never valid. Can anyone file Rule 47?
No, not everyone can file Rule 47. Kalubad versus Aceron is the teaching moment for non-parties.
The ratio of kalubad is that if you acquire an interest in a property after a judgment has become final and executory, you are a successor in interest. You step into the shoes of the loser. You cannot use Rule 47 to litigate what was already decided against your predecessor.
It protects the stability of property titles. You cannot buy your way into a lawsuit that has already ended. Wrap it up, Gideon.
First, Rule 47 is for void judgment, not wrong ones. Secondly, if your ground is extrinsic fraud, you have 4 years. If it's lack of jurisdiction, you have until laches or estupel sets in. Third, if you were in a trial and just lost, Rule 47 is not your second chance. Lastly, if the court never served you properly, the judgment is a dead limb.
And that's the ratio. The emergency exit is only for those who were locked out of the courtroom. See you next time.